We are live. Okay, so just like last year, I'm going to do a tier list, except I haven't evaluated any of the draft class, maybe just like the top quarterbacks. I like CJ Stroud out of the top five quarterbacks the most. Um, so, everything in order. So, yeah, I've evaluated about 2, 3 off seasons ago. I evaluated pretty much every player in the NFL who got any meaningful snaps. So there's going to be some guys here that I'm not really familiar with, but I would say, like, okay, so there's probably 20 guys here, the Cardinals, and I know Kevin Strong. I don't really recall whether he was much good, and there's also guys from like the 2020 NFL draft class that I haven't reevaluated, and it's been 3 seasons since they were drafted. Um, so I'm not sure how much they've progressed since then, but we'll just do a rough thing. Like Dennis Daly, I think was all right coming out of college, and the Cardinals picked him up for 2 years. So I know he's much maligned. Like I think Titans fans were always having a go at him because he had to sub in for Taylor Lewan at left tackle, but out of college he was good. But I can't really speak to how good he is now. So I won't really be able to speak with authority on the 2020 NFL draft class guys. 2021 and 2022, there's probably some progression there from when they came out of college, but not so much that, like, a player I didn't like coming out of college would suddenly just become much improved, right? So I think I can be a bit of an authority on all this stuff, including kickers, long snappers, and punters. Yes, I evaluated all those guys, or a lot of them. All right. So we'll just tier list as to whether I think the team has improved a lot in free agency, just mid, and then just like got worse. I recall I gave the Niners a D for their last off season, and they still did. Did they get to the conference championship? So it's just like, if you've got studs like Kittle, Fred Warner, Eric Armstead, I suppose Bosa's alright. Debo Samuel. If you've got those star players, they can elevate you. I just didn't think they improved their team at all in the off-season last year. But they still got a lot of wins and had a reasonably successful season. So it's not necessarily a correlation between, doing badly, in my opinion, in the off-season and then doing badly in the actual season. But I suppose I'll just look at this off camera. I'll just look at my my video, like, tier listing. Where is it? What was my end result? I can probably bring it up for you. See, I'm uploading video and trying to download. So I'm not going to dox myself, am I? So if you can see this was my end result from last season, last off season. So let's just have a fun little reevaluation. All right. So I don't think I'll speak to. So obviously these teams I thought improved themselves the most, and it's often contingent on 1 or 2 picks that just don't end up like working out, or like the guys I think that they picked up who, if they got game time, would really elevate their team. That didn't happen. So for the Saints, and the Panthers, they drafted the best quarterbacks, I thought, like Matt Corral and Ian Book. I think he was last season's draft class, was he? Oh no, I think it was just the Saints picking up Jarvis Landry and Tyrann Mathieu was a big needle mover, but it just didn't end up working out for them. And they didn't play Ian Book, which I thought they really should have. And I don't know if Ian Book's even on a team. Matt Corral didn't play for the Panthers. The Chargers made the playoffs, but didn't get much further. Dolphins, I don't know if they've improved much, but it's hard to... Like, Tua Tagovailoa just isn't the guy, in my opinion. Like, his ball security's awful. Pocket presence is awful. I'm not sure he can cycle through multiple reads, so they're going to be hamstrung if they're continuing to back Tua, in my opinion. But then on the bottom, so the Bengals, they thought they were fixing their O-line problems, and they got worse. I didn't like all their O-line additions. The Browns, obviously, the Deshaun Watson situation is just one of the worst moves I've ever seen, and I've been covering the NFL for like 5 years. I mean, I thought Baker Mayfield's better than Deshaun Watson, so to cut Baker, trade the house for Deshaun, has off-field issues, and then pay him the biggest contract ever in NFL history, I think. Absolute head-scratcher, and they lost Jarvis Landry. They lost Olivier Vernon. Just absolute disaster. And yeah, their performance declined. Obviously, the Chiefs won the Super Bowl. I guess that's just my point with the Niners. Like, if you've got Kelsey, if you've got Chris Jones, Mahomes is pretty good. You're always going to be competing. So I think, like, yeah, there's 11 guys on the field at one time, and 53-man squad, but the stars really can make a difference in the NFL. The Bears, woeful. The Packers, I don't think they made the playoffs, did they? Or the Vikings did, but they were kind of pretenders. They were never really in it, probably. So I'm pretty... Yeah, I mean... So there's no necessarily correlation between teams having a bad off-season, in my opinion, and then having a bad real season. But... interesting to see, like, were they trending upwards because they're off season or downwards? But it's all contingent on who the coaches play. Like, they might bring in good guys to their roster, but then not play them, right? So yeah. Anyway, so we'll just do this year, just a bit of fun. Just gives me a good impression of who I might want to back or want to watch for this upcoming season, because you just want to watch the best teams and the best players. Although the Cardinals, I thought, were stacked and should have been like Super Bowl favorites, and because of their personnel, and then they shat the bed completely. So it depends on play calling. I'm not a huge fan of just shotgun all the time, because like your run game just isn't going to be great, because the D line can just key in on where the ball is at all times. When it's under center, you don't necessarily know where the ball's going to be. Right. Let's get started. So the Cardinals. I'll just make comments on like the major guys. I want to keep this within 2 hours. The last one was like 3 hours. That did include analyzing the draft, or at least like the first 3 or 4 rounds. I comprehensively evaluated the guys who got drafted in the first 3 or 4 rounds. But we'll try and keep it under 2 hours. And also, we've got to have a look at the depth chart too, because like, yeah, Kelvin Beachum, they're paying him backup money. Are they going to expect him to start? So they'll have DJ Humphries on one end and Josh Jones on the other, probably. Maybe they'll cycle Daly in. I'd love to see Jalen Davenport get snaps. I think he's the best guy out of all of these. Although Josh Jones might have improved. Yeah, I should probably reevaluate the 2020 draft class before speaking with all that much authority. But, I think I'm retiring from the real hardcore evaluations. I used to evaluate like the top 40 or 50 players at each position who were entering the NFL draft. So that's like, what's that? Like 40, let's say 50 times 10 or 12. We're talking like 750 players at least. Like actually watching them until I have a firm understanding of what their talent level is. and then giving them a grade. Like that's just, I'm not pouring dozens of hours into that sort of thing anymore. So unless like, you know, my channel takes off and you'll have a thirst for it. All right. So I'm a big Will Hernandez fan, and it looks like they're paying him enough money to probably start. Yep, that's a big move. Kaiser White. I remember I had him as like a first round grade, and he was taken in like the 5th round by the Chargers. Ended up working his way up the depth chart and started for the Chargers, then the Eagles, and has earned himself a pretty decent contract. And should start for them, although, so they're paying him starter money, but then they got these highly touted guys in Isaiah Simmons and Zaven Collins. Looks like they might be moving Zaven Collins onto the line of scrimmage, maybe using Isaiah Simmons as more of a safety, which is good insurance because it sounds like Buda Baker's requested a trade. I'm not sure what the financial situation is with Baker and like how much dead cap there's going to be if they do end up trading him. Interesting to see what happens there. They've got these guys that are positionally diverse. You know, can they play? I think that should be the main determiner. Like, there's some guys like Micah Hyde would probably be a good linebacker, even though he's like 200 pounds, just because he's so dang smart, great technique, right? So you just want to put the best guys on the field, I feel, and like fitting physical prototypes might be nice, but just get the best guys on the field, in my opinion. So yeah, I'm liking these moves. Matt Prater's passed it. I should do a breakdown of how I evaluate kickers, but if you're stabbing at the ball as a kicker, it's going to be hard for you to have consistency from like the 50-yard mark. And the older you get as a kicker, I think the tighter in the hips you get, and it's just harder for you to have that consistency, because you want the consistency of the fluid kicking motion that will hold true no matter the conditions, no matter how the ball is snapped and placed, what the weather is, and you're going to see some Prater misses, I'm afraid. David Blau's good, so he's probably the backup to Kyler Murray. And Kyler has that running style, so there's a chance that he gets hurt a bit. They're paying Colt McCoy big money. Hopefully they see the light and play Blau. And Blau kind of suits the play style of Kyler a little bit more. So the coaching staff might just cop we're paying Colt $5 million, but we'll play Blau instead. I spoke on Daily. He's alright. Rashad Fenton's a boss, one of the best corners in the league, because like he's not a world beater, but there's just not that many great defensive backs. I think all the great talents tend to just grow up playing receiver. I would encourage a lot of guys, especially the smaller receivers, to like play defensive back, because you're going to have a hard time beating out the really big, strong, physical receivers who can also catch and, you know, run after the catch. You're going to have a harder time beating them out. Whereas if you're just a solid corner, you can still hang in the league. Like I can name, you know, Keelan Cole, Cameron Batson, Deshaun Hamilton, all these smaller receivers who, if they transition to defensive back, and, you know, they're great players partly because of their technique. And if they could maintain that technique on the defensive end, they could be mainstays in the league. But instead, those guys are, you know, bouncing around. So Fenton's a good pickup. They lost Byron Murphy. Yeah, so do I need a website showing subtractions? Because that's an important aspect. I didn't pick the right site. NFL team addition and subtraction for free agency, because that's a big factor of the grade. Yeah, I think I used ESPN last year. So they're sorting it by all this AFC, NFC, East thingo. Oh, they're helping me. No, they're not giving me a comprehensive look. I don't care about your analysis. Just give me the names. You jokers. Should have realized this before I started this analysis. Because the contract number matters as well. I'll probably just remember who they lost, because I'm that good. All right, yeah, we'll just roll with that. Yeah, so they lost Byron Murphy. Did they re-sign Zach Allen? Have they got re-signings here? Yeah, Will Hernandez was a Cardinal last year. They lost Zach Allen. They lost Michael Dogby, who's one of the best players in the league. He went to the Jaguars. Elijah Wilkinson's solid, but they lost a lot of guys, so probably giving them a D grade. But they brought in a C grade rather. But they brought in some okay guys, but not overly impressed. All right. Falcons brought back Lorenzo Carter. Good decision. That's going to be an absolute albatross, because like an offensive lineman who's picked in the first round is always going to be highly tabbed, and people might overlook his flaws because people just don't pay attention to offensive line play. And now that Lindstrom's soaking up so much cap room, people are going to see that I just don't think he has the technique. So that's going to be an albatross, depending on the guaranteed money, but do not like that move at all. Onyemata's alright, paying him big money. So he'll be alongside Grady Jarrett. It's a nice little mobile defensive tackle unit. That's an overpay for Bates, but he's a solid player. Heineke's a dog. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the league, I think. So he'll end up starting. Ritter's trash, in my opinion. One read, no pocket presence. So hopefully Heineke gets some opportunities, and that's such a big payday for the dude. So that's awesome for him. Mike Hughes, great player. And they brought in Okuda. So they're going to have a very strong cornerback group, I think. Got AJ Terrell as well. But who did they lose? Yeah, I'd probably give this... That Lindstrom contract's going to affect it a lot, so I'm going to give him B tier. They could have gotten A tier, bringing in some underrated guys like Hughes, Heineke, and just some solid guys in Bates, Onyemata, and Carter. But that Lindstrom contract is bad, in my opinion. Ravens. So they got Lamar back. He's alright. Odell's a big get. Who are they going to have at receiver alongside him? I like Tylan Wallace a lot, but he's going to have to beat out more highly touted guys like Rashad Bateman. And who they lose? I'm probably going to have to change the tiers once I realise that players have moved somewhere else. But I think you'll forgive me for that. I need to take a leak, which is just behind that door, so just bear with me. You're probably going to hear some sound effects. Nice and convenient. I could almost take a leak while at my desk here. I'm not insinuating anything there. I'm gonna watch the replay of me coming back. I'm excited. Anyway. Okay. I can't really think of any game changes they lost. So, but they just didn't do much. So I'm gonna give them D tier. Damn it, C tier. Yeah. But this is gonna be a work in progress until we finish the whole lot. The Bills. I don't know why. Which Connor McGovern is that? That's the Dallas Cowboys Connor McGovern. No, it's not. The Jets one. Yeah, not a fan of him. I like the Cowboys one much more. And they're going to start him. The Bills have had a great offensive line for a long time. It's really helped Josh Allen's development. But I'm not a... How do you distinguish between the two Connor McGoverns easily? Damien Harris. Why'd the Patriots give up on him? He was a monster for them. And Ramondre Stevenson is just a woeful fumble threat, I think. And if you don't have that attention to detail, you're probably not great in pass protection, that sort of stuff. Edwards is alright. That, my friends, is a D tier. I should really rename. Should I rename? I should change the colours too, for my own benefit, so that I don't just stuff this up the whole time. I'm gonna redo it like that, which is different to the thumbnail, but what are you gonna do? Do not like that off season by the Bills, because I don't think they have Roger Saffold. And again, people shat on Roger Saffold, and unless he just his play just deteriorated. He was one of the best offensive linemen in the league. So they don't have... Expect a big drop-off from this Bills offense because they don't have a top 5 offensive line anymore. Morse is good. Butker's good. Tommy Doyle is excellent, but he hasn't really been given any opportunities. But look for the Bills' offense to sputter, and look for Stephon Diggs to get the shits. Just like he did in Minnesota. Yeah. Okay. Jeez. People really love those Bengals safety. That's almost... I think it's almost $100 million spent on the two Bengals safeties. And who'd they get? They've got... Is it Lavert Hill? He'll play safety. I don't know who they are going to replace those guys with. Dalton sticks around somehow. Hurst is great. Bozeman, I had him as maybe a second or third round grade in the 2018 draft. I think he got drafted in the 5th or 6th round. Immediate starter, earning big bucks. I know how to evaluate offensive linemen, ladies and gentlemen. Julian Love's good. Not too bad. But who do they lose? Who's their starting quarterback? Oh, they're probably going to draft... They draft Stroud, I'm happy. If they draft Richardson or Bryce Young, I'm not very happy. I think Hendon Hooker was actually the worst, from memory, out of the top 5 guys. I didn't like Will Levis either. But, just stick with Matt Corral. He's awesome. They brought in some solid guys. No real game changers, but some solid guys. Really like Grugier Hill. So I'm giving this a mid tier. Who did they lose? DJ Moore, but they got a lot of draft capital for him. Yeah. So they got more. He's more athlete than player, I think. Put him at D end, he might make a big difference. Just have him rushing and just beating guys up on the line of scrimmage because he's huge, but he's just not got the play smarts, I don't think. I'm a big Nate Davis fan. TJ Edwards is solid. I like PJ Walker. Interesting how they always seem to... Like PJ Walker's a mobile quarterback just like Fields. And interesting that they tend to just go for that body type. PJ Walker is mobile, isn't he? Yeah. Yeah, so when I heard the news that they spent big bucks on Nate Davis, I thought, alright, they're really serious on improving things, but this is not good. Nate Davis isn't good enough to save this from an F. He's a dog. He was my top player in the 2018 draft, and he's proven to be, even though people were making fun of him for being a shit athlete, he's a good football player. They brought Pratt back. Cody Ford's good. He'll probably get some opportunities. Yeah. Who'd they lose? They lost their safeties. I think that's a mid free agency. Great. Overpay. Massive overpay. He might be able to plug a gap okay, but he's not that good. What did he do to deserve that? I mean, I didn't watch that much focus on Vikings games that much, but Tucky's good. He's good. I hope they're not leaving out some like really low under the radar guys. Because that will affect my evaluation. Tristan Hill's a good defensive tackle. Who'd they lose? Deonis Johnson. They didn't even have him return kicks, let alone playing. They're giving Nick Chubb the bloody upright running fumble risk, all the snaps, all the love. Deonis was a real dude in that backfield, I thought. He's off to Jacksonville. Jacksonville might get an A tier ranking based on some of the underrated guys that they've picked up. I think that's forgivable, the Tomlinson contract. There might be... There's some... I could give them B tier, but I'm still hurting after their last off season, so I'll give them C tier for now. How are we going for time? Half an hour through. We got... Okay, yeah, we're on track. Love me some Pollard. Don't love me some cutting Zeke. I know nerds are saying that he's lost multiple steps and stuff, but he's just one of the best players in the league. He's pretty much guaranteed 2 or 3 yards, which plus extra most of the time, especially with the good offensive line that the Cowboys generally run with. Have Pollard come out of the slot. Have Zeke block for Pollard. Keep that going. Or just trade Pollard for... You could probably get second round pick for Pollard. Like, or equivalent value. You know, go get DeAndre Hopkins by trading Pollard for him. Something like that. You know. But Pollard's a great player, so you might not want to lose him. Gilmore. Yep. Trent Sieg is the best long snapper in the league, I think. That's a B. I won't... Because they... Yeah. We'll just fly through, who cares. McGlinchey deserves that for sure. This guy's more talk than play. He's always yapping the whole game. But horrible tackling technique. He's going to get himself a spinal injury or someone else a spinal injury, I think. Got no clue in coverage, in my opinion. That's a lot of money, but he's a good player. Yeah, so the Bengals lost Perine. That's not enough to move him down, but I love... Perine's much better than Mixon, I think. I don't know what Stidham did to deserve that. Oh, he's a Patriot. Probably have to reevaluate Ben Powers, but that looks like a lot of money based on how good he was out of college, I thought. Dixon's a great punter. I think it's D tier. It's saved by McGlinchey and Perine. F. Don't like it at all. So they brought in Deshaun Elliott and Mike Hughes in the last off-season, and the Lions nearly made the playoffs, and then they let those impact players go for nothing. They replaced Cam Sutton. I'm not a fan. Mosley, nah. Back to the dog days for the poor old Lions based on this, because they don't really have any stars. Yeah, not great. I mean, what's this Aaron Rodgers situation going on? Because I don't think they could do much because he's got this huge contract. But if you don't improve, then you're going backwards, so give them an F. I love the Texans' technique of just adding a lot of guys for just like mid-tier contracts, not like betting the house on any one guy. They've been doing that for a few years now and just seeing like who hits. I think Kamu Grozier, he'll hit big for them as a pickup from the Dolphins a few off seasons ago, and then they ended up cutting him. Tunsil sucks. What's all this love for Tunsil, dude? Give me Roderick Johnson any day. He's subbed in for Tunsil, and watch my Roderick Johnson tape that I put together from his 2020 season, I think, and tell me he's not one of the best players you've ever seen. Okay. They've taken a lot of stabs here. Death by 1,000 cuts, maybe. That Tunsil contract's going to drag him down. Yeah, they're just adding a lot of solid players. And Sims is great. Will Sims get many snaps? Yeah, he's got a great shot. Yeah. But Sims is another guy. He's small relative to receivers. If he just played DB, I think he'd just stay in the league a little bit more, right? Because he's just on the fringes. He's not cracked the big time. Tavio Thomas is a good corner. This is tempting to put A tier. Yeah, we'll be generous. They've got to fix that quarterback situation, though. Holy shit. They didn't really add... I haven't evaluated EJ Perry. I'm not going to do it now. Case Keenum... Look, if Case Keenum plays for you, you're just going to have a solid dude. You know? The Vikings have been mediocre since they went in on Kirk Cousins and doubled down and tripled down on the dude. But they could have just stuck with Keenum. Although Keenum did earn a 1-year, $20 million contract from the Broncos, which I don't think the Vikings would have matched. So, but Data's good. Denzel Perryman's really good. Scott Quessenberry's good. Yeah, I think that definite A tier. Definite. That was and Shaq Mason's good. They're really gonna surprise some people, but they need to fix that quarterback spot for sure. So yeah, the Colts have sucked at evaluating defensive ends for a long time, and it continues here. No, don't be doing that. Matt Gay sucks. Again, he's a stabber. So when everything's perfect, he might be able to bang in a 50-yarder, but if anything's slightly off, a little bit of pressure, I'm very, very scared to have him on my team. Taking pressure field goals. Awful. Nice. So they're noting Dogby and D'Ernest. Okay, so CBS is keeping track of even like the lesser known guys. Tavon Campbell's really good. Look, it's just hard to say because like, are these guys going to get any opportunities? Who's in the Jacksonville backfield? Etienne. D'Ernest has got to beat out Hasty, surely. So if D'Ernest gets some reps, look for this team to really come on strong. And will Dogby get any snaps? He plays inside pretty much all the time. He can beat out all those guys. Trayvon Walker might line up inside. Fatukasi is most definitely not an edge defender, so you've got to take him into account at D tackle. Oh, what? What? Oh, I'm confused. They've got duplicates here. Robertson Harris. Fatukasi's on big money. Dogby could get some reps. Jeremiah Ledbetter. So there's Jonathan Ledbetter and there's Jeremiah. Yeah, this Ledbetter, one of the best. If Doug Peterson can turn the Jaguars around by bringing in these underrated dudes and giving them opportunities, that would be a great story. Because people gave him a lot of shit during the Eagles time. So look, I would bet that Dogby gets maybe like 40% of snaps, and D'Ernest might get like 60%. What about the cornerback situation? Tavon might be able to beat out some of these guys. He'll probably get like 30% of snaps, let's say. And Evan Ingram proved the doubters wrong and showed that he's a dog. Poor old Daniel Jones without him was just doing his best, but throwing to no-namers, really. So assuming those snap counts, and they didn't have much cap room to work with, so yeah, it'd be nice. Yeah, so I said that, you know, the Chiefs are always going to have Chris Jones, Travis Kelce, but they lost one Thornhill, they lost Orlando Brown Jr. lost Frank Clark. They cut him. And Jawan Taylor, yeah, again, it's the same Chris Lindstrom problem that once they're on big money, people expect them to reliably perform. Because I think you might see an offensive lineman deliver a great block in space and you think, okay, he's a great player, but you've just got to watch the guy consistently. And like, is he just creating space for people with the ball? And I don't think Jawan Taylor has the technique to make sure that like rushes are going outside or moving defensive ends away from the ball so that running backs can come through the holes. So this could be a dynasty killing move, picking Taylor over Orlando Brown Jr. Because Orlando Brown Jr. got a smaller contract than that, assuming that that's like somewhere close to the guaranteed money. And he is one of the best tackles in the league. Jawan Taylor, really average at best. I like Amenahu, but he's no replacing Frank Clark. Tranquil's good. Yeah, that's awful. But that's a second consecutive F rating, and maybe like coaching will overcome it, like with all the cool scheme stuff that the Chiefs do that are pretty innovative. But you know, losing Thornhill, losing Frank Clark, losing Orlando Brown Jr. It's tough. And who've they got in their division? Broncos. I mean, they're alright. Hopefully they iron out the issues, because Russell Wilson's a great player, I think, so unless he's lost a few steps. The Chargers are going to be good. The Raiders. Alright, well that's good timing, getting to the Raiders. I'm just talking about teams in the same division. Oh my goodness. Love Jacoby. He was I gave him a first round grade in 2019. He went undrafted. Beat out N'Keal Harry, a first round pick from the same draft class at receiver. And getting that big fat contract. It's pretty meme worthy that he did that lateral pass that lost his team the game when he was playing for the Patriots against the Raiders, and then the Raiders reward him with that money. That's meme worthy for sure. Love Horsted. Got Keelan back, but I'm not that confident that they'll give him many opportunities. But Mac Hollins is gone. So, and they probably brought Hollins out because they think he's a better blocker just because of his size, but nah. It's really all about, like, do you let the run defender get inside? And Cole is a bit of a hustler as a blocker and will put his helmet in where the linebackers are, whereas Mac Hollins a bit soft in that regard, I think. Keelan ain't going to get touches unless one of these guys goes down. We've got like 3 really good slot players here. What are they doing? Have they got a quarterback? Jimmy. Yeah, well, look, these guys probably thrive in the short passing game, and everyone knows that Jimmy can't throw past 10 yards, so schematically that fits well. The Giants added Darren Waller, so that's partly recovering from their loss of Evan Ingram. Keelan's not going to get many opportunities. Oh, they added a million dudes. I really like David Long at cornerback. He'll probably start for them. How does Hoyer hang around, man? He's a great locker room presence. He's got a great football brain. Yeah, well, you throw him out there and it's not pretty from memory. Austin Hooper's really good. Why are you wanting to play for Josh McDaniels? Like, I mean, I'm being a bit judgmental, but they didn't have a great time last season, and some of his conduct, like reports of his conduct when he was with the Broncos, wasn't great. I guess guys are just looking for an opportunity wherever they can find it. This is a tough one because there's so many players to consider. I just think they better draft a good quarterback to back Jimmy up and beat him because he's so mid. Other than that, no real albatross contracts. It might be B tier because they got some contributors. So is Jimmy enough to bring him down to C tier? Nah, we'll give him B. How we going? Good. Pipkins, great player, rewarded as such, and you love to see it. He stands out for his size on an NFL field, and NFL players are amongst the biggest humans on the planet, so that says something. And the dude has great feet, good hand placement. So Chargers know what they're doing on that offensive line because they got Zion Johnson. Who else they got? I prefer Clapp over Lindsley, even though Lindsley's on 13 times more money. They lost Scott Quessenberry, who is pretty good. J.K. Scott, I think top 3 punter. I'm working on a punter analysis video, and he's great. Like, he was on the Packers, and then they brought in Bojorquez instead, and he's probably had some punts blocked or just like boots it into the end zone a lot, whereas JK's just absolutely roosts it and has good placement. Parham was a first round grade for me, and he was undrafted, and he's a really good complement to Gerald Everett, who's still on the team, I think. Yeah. I think Dick is pretty good. I haven't evaluated him fully, but just on the brief, like a few snaps I've seen from him, he's got good technique. I'm just going to be a homer and go A tier again. So why are the Rams just absolutely suffering cap-wise? Because that's not pretty much... I'm actually not familiar with some of these guys. Rose Boom, Jolly, and Copeland. I'm not really familiar with them, so apologies if I give them a bad grade, which they will, considering that they didn't add any impact players, what I know here. And they lost, Jalen Ramsey. They lost David Long. They lost Greg Gaines, I think. David Edwards. John Walford. Is he on the roster? Come on, give Bobby Brown some opportunities. Yeah, they're going to suck again. But why? What's their cap problem? AD's on big money. Is it Stafford? Oh, the receivers. They don't seem to be suffering too much cap wise, but they just didn't add anyone. So, well, anyone I recognise. I'm pretty mean, aren't I? See if the Dolphins can maintain their good acquisition trend. He's a good player. Yep. Defensive Player of the Year candidate every time he's out there in the field. Nick Needham's good. But no nasty contracts really. Yeah, I'll just give him mid tier. Nice. Nice? No. Yep, good. Great. Like B. $200 Gs, that's it? That's a pittance. Nice. Well, that's a big payday, but he's a great player. Well, not great, he's above average, but if you're an above average corner, then like you're above average relative in value relative to other players in the league, then you're probably amongst one of the better defensive backs in the league. That's how short the league is in quality defensive backs, in my opinion. Wow. Yeah, so the Chiefs lost Juju as well, so that brings down their rating if it could go down. Nice. Okay, so that'll mitigate the loss of Damien Harris. I like Mac Wilson. Cardona's a good long snapper. So they're replacing a mid tight end in Jonnu Smith with a mid tight end in Gesicki. So they brought back Yodny Kajust. Are they going to give him any snaps? It's Kajust time, baby. Reef, they can stomach not playing him and have Kajust play instead. They might have Unwenu. Has Unwenu played it? I don't think he's played at tackle before, has he? Has he? It's Kajust time. I'm all for it. Yeah. Yuck. Icky. Ew. Oh, but that's beautiful. So Shep didn't get that. He was playing behind Sheldon Rankins, Quinnen Williams, Fatukasi in the years prior. They bring John Franklin Myers inside a bit. But he must be respected enough in the league to get starter level money. And who's he competing against on the roster? Oh, finally a breakout. I'm going to get so many views on my Nathan Shepherd highlight video from his 2020 tape. Just from that. Just from him breaking out. Because he's going to demolish these guys in the depth chart, surely. Unless Dennis Allen's just an idiot and signing Derek Carter that much money. While it might not necessarily just be his decision. That's crap. Like what can Derek Carr do that Ian Book can't? Just stick with the, like, they spent a third round pick on Ian Book, did they? And let him go. I mean, Jameis might be on the same tier as Derek. Oh no, Derek's a bit better. Just got shit arm strength. Just doesn't put his leg into it and really just let it rip. He just floats them, which is all right on like wheel routes, deep balls, but just hitting a guy, especially outside the numbers, I just don't think Carr can do it. Alright, they brought him back. Yeah. Storm Norton was solid for the Chargers, I thought. Interesting. I wonder what kind of out there is on the Derek Carr contract. 100 million guarantees over 4 years. So they've got him for what, like 3 years? Like they're going to have to stick with him. He doesn't even look healthy in this image. What's going on there, Derek? I think D tier. As much as I love Nathan Shepherd, I don't like what happened there with the Carr contract. Because he hardly overcame like adversity with the Raiders. Like I think he was just bitching and moaning, and it's just like, dude, you've been a starting quarterback in the league for like 10 years. You haven't really done anything of note, and so you've had all the opportunity in the world, and you're still gonna like complain about things. Like, be the difference maker or just leave. He's worth it. Definitely. People were low on Jones before last season. I had him ranked as a top 5 player from his draft class, and he balled out. So what does that say, huh? Yeah, Karaki's alright. He's really good. That's interesting. Shepherd went from like 10 mil a year to 1.3 for 1 year. I think it was like because of injury issues. Crowder's a good long snapper. I just don't think they're secondary. They've got a Dory Jackson. He sucks. Are they still? See, am I squinting? See, this is why I've got a ring light. I have a ring light on my face even when I'm not streaming, because it's like, otherwise you need light shining on your irises to like, so that you don't have to squint, I think. I think ergonomics is quite important. And I think, because like, I'll turn this off, and unless I raise the brightness of my monitor, I just have to try a bit harder to see stuff for whatever reason, whereas that illuminates, it's like it simulates daytime, whereas being in low light all the time and looking around would strain your eyes. What does that have to do with these evaluations? What was I looking up? Oh yeah, the secondary. They lost Julian Love. Yeah, awful. Terrell Burgess is good, but you're going to have a hard time. But Daniel Jones is good enough to elevate you, I think. How are we going? We're close. I'm getting a bit of a sore throat. I've already streamed for 2 hours. You can check out my my Twitch. I should link to it in my... Look up Underrated Entertainment. It might come up. Madden 22. Just playing Madden 22. Showing off my skills building a team and franchise mode. So Nunez Roche would probably be a depth guy because they're paying Dexter Lawrence shitloads, deservedly so. They're paying Leonard Williams an absolutely obscene amount of money. So he'll be a rotational guy and like designated run stoppers probably, but he's worth that money. Well, look, they kept the DJ train going, so A tier. If they pay Lazard that much and then his former teammate Rogers doesn't come to the Jets, that is just hilarious. Because Lazard ain't done shit. Quincy, injury waiting to happen from memory, evaluating him out of the draft. Zerline, another old kicker who stabbed at the ball. You're going to see some horrific shanks, I think. Morstead's a really good punter. Colin Castillo. They've got a factory of O-linemen there at the Ravens, and he was picked up from there, I think. But huge overpays. He sucked me off. No, don't. Actually, I mean, you can, but I really want a job. I've been following the Jets more focused than any other team because they've been bad for so long, and I'm like, well, just give me the reins and I'll fix it. Yeah. When I heard that Nick Sirianni was like, we're happy with our running backs when Zeke was showing interest in joining them, I thought there's a ceiling to what the Eagles can achieve under Sirianni, because Zeke is just perfect running back. You built him in a lab, build an ideal running back in a lab, Zeke's the guy. And he's going to, if you give him the opportunities, and not just in short yardage situations, because I feel like what the Cowboys would do is just give Pollard some snaps when there was a lot of space to be had as far as... Basically, they just run Zeke to just get guaranteed first downs, because that's what Zeke does. But then his yards per carry attempt was quite low as a result. And so all these nerds just look at his yards per carry and think, Zeke's falling off, he's not worth 16 mil a year. But the dude's a one-man offense. You know, he can block pretty much anyone. He can make good receiver as far as finding holes in zones and running away from guys, making guys miss, hurdling, juking, trucking guys. He's just a joy to watch, and for the Eagles not to bring him on board because they're all proudy about what they've accomplished, you know, they didn't win the Super Bowl, and now they're paying these trash corners obscene amounts of money. It's hard to say expected drop off, because they've got some good young players like Jalen Hurts. They've got a strong offensive line. Jalen Hurts, Dallas Goedert, Devontae Smith. They lost their linebacker group, right? Kaiser White and TJ Edwards. Greedy Williams is solid. Rashad Penny's good. I mean, look, yeah, these running backs are okay, but it's just like, it's Zeke. It's freaking Zeke. Don't be turning your nose up at that dude. So, that's awful. That's awful. That's alright. I'll just give him D because there's some saving grace here, like Penny, Greedy. But Lane's not worth that, so yeah, bugger ya. Nice, nice, nice. Really good. Don't know what... Like, yeah, he started in a Super Bowl team, but I don't see what people rave about him for. Yeah. We'll just call that a mid. The way I look at things is Javon Hargrave, if he plays every game, in the season, I think he's definitely worth it. But let's say he misses 4 games, and that's just too much money to be paying him. He's a really good player, but that's like just having to worry about him every play type money. Like, that's elite money for his position. And so it's going to be, living up to that contract's going to be tough. They must just really regret getting rid of DeForest Buckner, maybe, because that just seems like a I'm hurting kind of payday for Hargrave. But yeah, it'll all work out if he's healthy. He's getting on a bit too, right? That might not have all that much guaranteed money. 40 million guarantees. Yeah, right. So after a couple of years, I suppose they can get out from under his contract. So yeah, that's not too bad. The Darnold, he sticks around somehow. Cleland's great. Are we going to see Cleland go the Arden Key route of playing for the... getting drafted by the Raiders pretty high, not really getting all that many opportunities, and then balling out for the Niners? Because Arden Key, he was a big difference maker for the Jaguars last season. But he was in the Raiders' doghouse, as was Ferrell, even though he was the 4th overall pick in 2019. Kivitz is good. Givens is good. I don't recall being impressed by Brendel. Hartsfield. See, the Panthers had some good things going, picking up some underrated guys. Like using Pat Elflein at interior offensive line. He comes to mind. He was really good. They brought in Miles Hartfield as an undrafted guy and played in the slot, and he's really good. But they just don't run with the good things, I think. Is it close to a B tier? Yeah, we'll give him a B tier. I mean, may God provide salvation to them if Darnold ever has to actually play. I mean, he's got the Jimmy Garoppolo throwing action, that's for sure. Just like a little... and he's got some girth to him, the old Darnold. But I don't know what he's... I suppose like he did kind of ball out and get some wins for the Panthers in the early part of the season, but I think like we all came back down to earth a bit on the Darnold. The Quake bus? Is that the Reddit meme? We all came back down to earth pretty soon on that one. But I really like Kevin Givens. Yeah. Alright, nearly there. Yeah, why did Gino do well? Okay, let's think about who's in the same division as him. Seahawks. The Rams weren't very good last season. Who else is in that division? The Niners. Yeah. I don't know. What made Gino... I mean, it's all about stats, right? I mean, do they even make the playoffs? And they're treating him like the franchise guy. I just think he's kind of like he can run, but he's like a statue in the pocket. Like, I'm putting together a video of why quarterbacks should always evaluate the pass rush before keying in on a receiver. Because I just feel like Gino's the kind of guy where he'll step back and just stare down his primary option, and then will get decapitated by a blindside edge rusher. And frankly, that's just an injury which, you got to get value out of a guy, and if he's hurt, paying him big money will hurt you and your soul, right? And it's also fumble risk when you play like that. Shelby Harris, best defensive lineman in the NFL. They're paying Dramont Jones like the best defensive lineman in the NFL. Pray for the Seahawks that they've still got Shelby. If they cut Shelby to bring in Dramont Jones, that's Tragic. Is he? Bruh. Bruh. He's a free agent. Shelby Harris. Shelby Harris, the best defensive lineman in the NFL, is a free agent. The Seahawks cut him to make way for Dramont Jones, who is a big, tall, strong, fast, athletic guy who doesn't know how to play football. Shelby Harris is a 6'1", 290-pound fat man who plays his ass off every snap. Wonderful technique, and he's on the street right now. Shameful shit. How do you watch Dramont Jones tape? What draft class was he? Dramont Jones? 2019. Yeah, I reevaluated him 3 years after his draft day, 3 seasons of football, and he's not even league average, and they're paying him top D tackle money. That's an absolute disaster. That's got to be the worst. Like, it's him and the Jawan Taylor decision for the Chiefs. That worst decisions in these off seasons. This off season. No question. Phil Haynes, like, finally the Seahawks have got a decent offensive lineman. Phil Haynes, really good. Jason Myers, a good kicker. Julian Love's good. Bobby Wagner's good. But that Geno and Dramont contract, that's big money for Myers. Holy shit. That's just heinous. But let's just see, does Julian Love, Myers, and Haynes getting Reed for an affordable contract, is that enough? No, they got rid of Shelby, so screw you. Gee, I was way more even with my distribution in the last off-season video. Not so this time around. Yeah, that's alright. That's the same situation as the Javon Hargrave contract, I feel. It's like, you best hope that he plays every game because you're not getting value for money. Whereas the best players, it's just like, Micah Hyde's so good that he can shut down a lot of what an offense wants to do. And so if you paid him, like $14 million a year, if you paid Micah Hyde $14 million a year, and he played just 5 games, it's probably worth it, right? If he missed a huge chunk of the season, if you're still paying him big money just for those 5 games, it's worth it because he is a huge contributor to your team winning. And look, the Bills' defense was highly lauded. Mike Hyde went down and shit went south. So there's evidence there. So yeah, I like Dean a lot. I don't like him that much. Yeah, this is a great move because you can't be trotting Kyle Trask out there, I'm afraid, unless he's improved a lot since I last evaluated him. And Baker is a baller. I really feel bad. Like, the Cleveland Browns should have stuck with a good thing, They had Baker, Jarvis Landry, Austin Hooper, Odell, but I think they just had some off-field issues and it's all gone to crap. And they're back to being the good old Brownies that we know and love. Stinny's really good. Levante's good, of course. Greg Gaines, I mentioned him with my Rams eval, and I think I had him as a day 1 or 2 pick, and you draft him in the 7th round maybe, and suddenly starting alongside Aaron Donald, right? Chase Edmonds, great player. They've got Aaron Stinney here twice, unless there's 2 Aaron Stinneys. Yeah, let's give him an A tier. But then they lost Brady. Yeah, this is a much rougher evaluation than last year. So don't get your knickers in a knot if you see your favourite team in the F column. But this is just off the top of my head, and I do have very good... Oh, the Jaguars lost Key. And who'd they... Yeah, they were just on the brink. Let me see. They were just on the brink of getting... Of just only being a B tier. Because the Robertson Harris contract's outlandish. And I didn't think that these guys were going to get that many snaps, so... Sorry, you're being demoted. How much money did Key get? I suppose the Jaguars would be all in on Josh Allen and Trayvon Walker, like really high draft picks. And so they probably not willing to pay Arden Key starter money, which is what he got. But the dude's just a wacky, wavy, inflatable tube, man, and pretty unblockable. He's so long. He's quite strong, deceptively strong. Yeah, tough. But bringing in Dillard's good, helping compensate for the loss of Taylor Lewan, who I don't think is signed anywhere. But he's a good, very good player. So we had the Bucks up there, right? No bad contracts here. But no real difference makers after these first two. We'll just give him... But they would have lost some guys, right? They haven't brought up the re-signing of Jeffrey Simmons. We'll just give him B tier. Will we? Did they lose any key guys? They lost Luan. They lost Nate Davis. Yeah, we'll give him C tier. Yeah. I don't know what that's about. Yeah. He's okay. While he's okay... They're really pouring a lot of money into that O-line. Which has... Who do they have? Got a good centre, I recall, Chase Roulier, who's like downright veteran at this point. Been a mainstay there for a long time. Leno's good. They'll got to be giving Wiley some snaps. What's up with Andrew Norwell? I remember he was an undrafted guy and played in the Panthers Super Bowl team as a guard and like heralded as this outstanding player, but then I'm not impressed with him and he hasn't done much since then. So interesting sort of arc there. Sadiq Charles is an outstanding player. Nolan Laufenberg's a really good player too. They've got some potential to have a really good offensive line here, but I'm just not sure. They're going to be playing Norwell probably and Lucas, which is not a good idea, in my opinion. Marcus Kemp, he's almost exclusively been a special teamer for the Chiefs, but I really like him as a receiver as well. Again, like he's really tall, and I just feel like on offense you just want to have as much space as possible, and the bigger you are, you can create more space in run blocking and also just take up more space with your length, catch balls against the smaller defenders. So I like my big, tall receivers, I would generally say, and Marcus Kemp is one of those guys. But I don't know if he's going to... You got these little midgets, no offense. Curtis Samuel, McLaurin, Dotson, De'Ami Brown, they're all tiny. So they're little speed guys, but, you know, quarterbacks, I think... Look, I've never played. What do I know? But I just feel like as a quarterback, you just want a guy who can body the defensive back and make catches even with some interference. Whereas I don't think there's much evidence that these guys can do that. Like they might have some cute. They run around a track really fast, but I just don't think they have the technique to overcome just the fact that they're not going to be winning jump balls generally. I don't think McLaurin's won some jump balls down the field, and it's also like we overlook run blocking with wide receivers so much, and if you're running the ball at least 40% of the time, then don't you want to get a good blocker because it's 40% of the game, and Marcus Kemp has spent a lot of time on special teams, so you know that he's probably going to be an okay blocker, but just have him out there catching balls too, because he can do it based on the tape I saw a few years ago. Brissett's above average quarterback, and they let Heineke go and they run with Howell. Yeah, that's not going to go well, guys. But Brissett sticks around and he makes some plays. I like Obata. See, I think Ted and Tyler Larson brothers, I don't know, but Ted Larson's awesome. But I wasn't really impressed with Tyler, so. Give this a D. Alright. So I've probably overlooked a whole bunch of players, like just off the top of my head. Did you guys make any, like in this F, did they make any savvy decisions? Like cutting guys that they should have that might elevate their free agency? Nah. And then did they lose any key guys? Yeah. So that's my thoughts on free agency in 2023. I hope you enjoyed all this. Anything more to note? So, yeah, overall, I just think I can do a better job than a lot of these teams. But I'm not impressed with Brady's after the snap ability in his old age, but I think there's a lot to like calling audibles, like that a lot of quarterbacks might not just have the nous to do, changing plays. Like Brady would have had the brain to do that. It's just like after the snap, it's like you best hope that his primary target is open because he's not escaping the rush and kind of injury prone because of that lack of mobility. So that reduces his value, in my opinion. So there's a lot that goes into the quality of a team beyond just like purely how good each player is. Like it's got to be a cohesive unit. But I just feel like if I was given an opportunity to build a team or have input, I could just put the best players in the world on the field because there's a lot of guys on the street right now, like Shelby Harris, that deserve to be on the field and will give the opponents nightmares. Alright, on that note, thanks. Love you all. Even if you're not that nice to me. Ain't that dandy.